This is Young Dave on Subtle Radio, and I'm your host, Young Dave. Today is a special episode because it's going to be a talking segment for this entire hour, and I'm here with a special guest today. One of my best friends, and he's practically my older brother as well. Give it up for Chazzy Chazz. What's up, Charles?
What's up? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So I've been wanting to do this because I feel like experimenting with the format of my show is good for just in general having a really wide range of what I do for this radio show, because the last episode was my guest mix with Opus, and that included an interview. And then the last episode before that was a rundown of artists from the festival Doomtown. But I wanted this to be more personal. I wanted it all to be in one place, and I'm pretty stoked for this.
Yeah, I'm stoked. You've been killing it with the radio show. The whole series leading up to the guest mix from Opus, and all the other guest mixes too have been sick. So great job with the programming.
Thanks, man. So before this continues any further, I just want you to give some time to introduce yourself. Tell me about your musical background. I know it's one hell of a background. You've been going to concerts since 2007, if I am correct.
2002. I actually only know that because I just cleaned out my parents' garage and I found a book with a bunch of concert tickets that I used to collect. So 2002, but yeah, I've been raving since 2005. I have a pretty diverse taste in music, I guess. Growing up, I was really into metal and jazz, and then I really got into electronic music. Not really so much dance music, but like IDM, like Warp Records stuff.
Reflex, Aphex Twin, all that stuff.
Yeah, some Reflex stuff. Planet Moo.
I love Planet Moo.
Yeah.
Music, and back in like the mid 2010s, he was releasing Mike Paradinas, if I'm correct, was releasing a lot of, I guess you can call it SoundCloud trap type of stuff in Deconstructed Club. So he always has ears on a lot of scenes, especially the footwork scene. Yeah. One of the first labels to release footwork outside of the US.
Yeah. The Bangs and Works compilations. Yeah. Those were like really, for me, that was like my entry point into footwork and Chicago dance music. And I mean, it's a legendary record label, but they definitely got like a new lease on life, with the footwork scene. And I think that goes for like hyperdub records too, like after dubstep died, they kind of needed some new sound to explore. And I think, the Chicago footwork thing made those labels exciting again. But yeah, I've been in and out of, phase with different styles of music for a long time. I'm a DJ, I DJ as well and produce music, but it's just like a hobby, But when I DJ, it's usually drum and bass. I do a lot of that. But I also take a lot of time off of that because it's really, you can't just listen to that all day. And there's a lot of great music outside of, the little subgenres that you get stuck in. And so I try to explore that more than I do my bread and butter. Yeah,
that's true. And also, besides listening to dance music over and over again and being super repetitious, the habit of going through record box and organizing things is also super time consuming.
Yeah, I do a really bad job at that, so it's not super time consuming for me. I tend to like when people play off my USB, they're always complaining because I never like line up the grid lines.
Yeah,
in record box.
You just place it on. You download an MP3, put it through record box, and you don't adjust the first point.
No. I really just like want to have the freshest music. So, I just put the music on there and then I figure out how to play it later. And I also feel like that's made me a better DJ too, because I'm not like relying so much on the technology.
It's all about the ears.
It's all about the ears, and I mean, I'm not like, I still rely heavily on the technology, watching the waveform,
loop functions and all that.
Yeah. I still use all that, but I guess just to step back a little bit from that, And it's honestly, it just comes down to me being lazy. It doesn't have anything to do with, me not wanting to use the technology. But yeah, I don't do a great job of preparing my tracks to make my life easier. Super
casual approach to DJing. That's for sure.
Just want to play tunes.
Yeah. Before we go any further, let's put things in perspective. So you said 2002 was your first concert and your first rave was 2005. How old were you during each year?
So 2002, I was 12. 2005, I was 15. So, yeah, that, which, to some listeners stateside, that might be kind of hard to believe. But there was a time when raves were all ages in Los Angeles. In the UK, I know that that's pretty standard stuff to be raving at 15.
Yeah. Because in the UK, I believe the legal smoking age is already 16. So a lot of things get bumped down age-wise.
And I think, a lot of the events, they don't have age requirements or anything like that. But here, that's really strange because, it used to be all ages, and then I think they changed it to 18. And then I think they changed it to 21 and
for some events,
I think some events are 21 only, but some of the big massives, are just 18 plus.
Yeah. Apocalypse, which we just attended, was an 18 plus event. Mm-hmm. But for me, your music history of going to events and nights compared to me, you've been going since 12, 15, your first concert and your first rave. For me, I only started going to events regularly around the summer of 2023. That's when I was at least going to one event every single month. Mm-hmm. And me compared to you and all of our friends, Chaz and Herb and Jane and everyone else we meet at raves, I still feel like a greenhorn compared to everyone else.
Yeah, I think what's different about you too, and people who listen to this radio show can probably get the sense that you might not have a lot of nightlife experience, but you have an extensive knowledge of music in all these different scenes, a lot of it really niche. And I think that's what made us fast friends, right? Is I've been listening to this music for a long time, and a lot of it I've been participating in the nightlife and the scenes around it, but you don't really meet a lot of people who are knowledgeable on really kind of unique styles of music. And sometimes you only meet those people online, So
that's true.
It's cool to meet a person who's maybe been following a record label that, you are the only person, you don't have any friends who are into this record label or this artist. And although you might lack the nightlife experience, I think you make up for it in your extensive knowledge. Yes. Yeah. Which is the important stuff, you enjoy the music.
Absolutely.
I think now you're getting a different side of the experience of being a fan of dance music and
on all aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Let me put things in perspective. So before Subtle Radio, I used to be a DJ for Titan Radio, and I hosted 2 shows: Practice Sessions, which was my own solo show, and Titan Radio After Hours, a show that I hosted with Julio Reyes, who is currently the radio media specialist here at Titan Radio at Cal State Fullerton in Southern California. And Julio told me one interesting fact, that a lot of DJs, they actually start going to parties and are part of the rave scene before they actually get into the music, which I found to be a really surprising fact, because for me, it's always been the music first, me finding music through the internet, and then I found out about the whole in-person local music scene around SoCal, mostly within LA. And what do you have to say about that, Chaz?
In what? Yeah, I think that is strange, you know. I think it's unusual that I mean, for me personally, somebody gave me like a CD, you know, with some drum and bass on it, like in 2005, and I thought it sounded really cool. But it wasn't really until I went to an event that I started to like understand it better, or like the context that it's played in started to make sense. And so it's I think it is unusual for somebody to have so much enthusiasm for the music before they experience it in the context for which it's meant, you know, for which it's created. And so I don't meet a lot of people like that, but I wish I did.
That actually makes a lot of sense because first and foremost, this stuff is sound system music. We always have it. We have like a shared mutual sort of priority that whatever night we go to, the sound has to be good. It has to have a big beefy sound system. Otherwise, it's not going to be a really good night. And if it, like, for example, at the Belasco when we saw Alex Perez, Lude, and Wilkinson, that the sound wasn't really all that there.
Yeah.
It was a venue meant for like bands and singers and like rock performers, and not really for like electronic music.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think I've definitely been to more shows with poor sound than I have, you know, been to shows with sound systems I was really impressed with. And I think you'd agree that, like, you know, any DJ could be performing, but if the sound isn't good, it's a boring night. Like, it could be your favorite artist, it could be a really talented DJ, but if the sound isn't there, it's really all for nothing. And the same goes the other way. You could have a really shit DJ and great sound, and it's gonna get the party started, you know, because I think even more important than the artist that's playing is the sound engineer, you know, and the equipment, right? But so that I'm very often unimpressed when I go out for nights because it seems like in LA a lot of the promoters, they'll kind of spend all of the budget on things like lights and lasers and visuals and
probably the bookings as well.
Bookings too, you know. But I'm like, I like the basics, you know, like
it's gotta have the bass.
Right, it's gotta have the bass.
The basic bass.
Yeah, all the fundamentals have to be in place, and then if you still have a profitable night, you know, maybe start talking about visuals and stuff like that. But this is just me personally. I don't know. Maybe like the majority of people, they'll only go if there's lasers. I don't know. Yeah,
that's what I've heard. It's such a weird thing. That one comment on when the Doomtown got canceled, there was this one person who said, I didn't really want to go because there's not going to be any lasers or visuals. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? It's about the music and the sound first and foremost. And there were visuals also at the Fremont Country Club where the night parties were held.
Yeah.
But it struck me as really weird hearing that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it doesn't surprise me because, you know, we go to shows all the time where the sound is like mid and then the visuals are like really impressive. So, I mean, they got to do it for a reason. I got to think that there's somebody out there requesting some lasers or something like that, or they're going to have a bad night if they don't see a fog machine or something. But
the way I see it, it's probably for people to make videos out of so they can say that they had a good night, and that's going to get far with engagement and getting the word out a lot more than just no lasers, no lights, or like few lasers and few lights.
Yeah, that's so depressing.
Yeah.
So depressing. One of the best shows I went to this year was Mala at B-Side, and he did
Don Quixote.
Yeah, which is a terrible venue.
For quinceañeras, birthday parties, and weddings.
Yeah. But thankfully that night they got a really proper sound system from, shout out Synchronistic Sound.
It's either Synchronistic or Hennessy.
No, Synchronistic is the provider of the sound. They have a Hennessy rig.
Oh, that's right.
And Mala did a blackout set with no lights, no visuals. And it was unbelievable. It was fantastic. And I wish that more artists would kind of boycott the stupid fucking lasers. I don't know. I'm sick of it. I also just got back from a massive. We went to a
Apocalypse Zombieland.
Yeah, we went to a massive
version 2.
Yeah, version 2. And for anyone listening, if you don't know what a massive is, because I don't know if they call it that just everywhere, but in the States we call a massive is like a rave, I don't know, above 20,000.
Would you say there was 20,000 plus people? I can't really gauge the amount of people from a crowd.
There is for sure. Yeah. There is for sure. I can't really either, but I mean, I've been to raves with where I knew the count. So yeah, but if it's in the tens of thousands of people, I mean, it's a massive, right?
It's like at the Hyper.
That's not the official definition, so don't quote me.
It's like the Hyperdub night where you said there was like 200 plus people, and I was like, how's there 200 plus people? And you actually went around and you did a visual count.
Yeah. Maybe it's just like it's like a sense that you pick up over time,
like a strong visual calculus.
Right. Yeah. But I guess you'd have to count 20,000 to really get a good sense.
Yeah. Well, I feel like massives are synonymous here in the States, especially in SoCal with Insomniac. Like everything Insomniac holds outside of their venues, their indoor venues are pretty much massives. They're all massives.
Yeah. I mean, it's been that way for a while. I mean, they've only gotten bigger.
Yeah, there's no stopping them. Some would say a monopoly, but everyone, there's a lot of good and bad with Insomniac, I feel. The way they have such a grasp on the live music industry for electronic music.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the good, it's obvious what the good is, I think. They book a lot of the big name people, but also, like we saw this weekend, they book some more underground artists. Definitely. And those artists get exposure to like a big crowd, bigger than they would in America had Insomniac not booked them. And they play the best sets too. Oh yeah, they always play the best sets. I mean, for us, those are our favorite sets. But for the artist, I think it's a really good opportunity to get booked for an Insomniac event. They get a lot of exposure and this and that. So I'm not against that, but me personally, I don't like their events. Yeah, I'd say the same as a general overall view of Insomniac. It feels, because we have extensive experience in the underground, Insomniac events feel very corporate. Yeah, they feel like soulless, Yeah. And I think we've been to some really good events that are put together by people who really love the music. There's some great promoters in LA doing that right now, and the bookings they get are just like, it's so clear they're not doing it to line their pockets, and you can feel that as like a club goer. You can just feel that the person is doing this out of passion. It's just like, and at Insomniac events, it's just feels a bit lacking. I don't know. Yeah, and it's only getting bigger and more corporate, and so I imagine that feeling is just going to be more transient. It's getting bigger and more corporate, but because Apocalypse Zombieland is their newest massive, it only started last year specifically for bass music. We've been seeing more and more of our favorite names, and I feel like it's starting to finally cater to us. Only a certain sliver of the lineups, though. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I've always felt like they've kind of explored new, they've given artists that have maybe a more unique sound a chance at Insomniac events, which is nice. Like I love that they give artists like that an opportunity, and they also put them in front of a big audience and stuff like that. So no hate on that, because I think it's important the artist gets some attention. But just the event itself, I mean, I've just had a much better time at a small cap, 500 cap venue, with people who really are there for the music, not for the drugs or the women or all the other stuff. And I always have a better time. And I think that the average rave goer, if they were to attend one of these more small, intimate nights, would also enjoy it more.
Absolutely. So I was originally going to talk about our favorite events going on, but since we've already talked about Apocalypse Zombieland so much, let's talk about our overall experience with what our favorite things are. Or, sarcasm aside, what our least favorite things of the event were.
Oh, of Apocalypse?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't you go first? I know you have quite a few.
I had a list on hand that I texted to you guys, but the worst sets of the night were, or for both nights were, Andrometic was on Friday, and Kyle Dubs was on Friday too. And we said that Andrometic was particularly not so good because he just played through the tracks almost every single time. And the breakdowns for the tracks would just keep on playing through. And then we just saw COD Dubs just as a joke pretty much because we wanted to see that 6-deck slice and dicing that he does.
Yeah, he didn't do any slice and dicing.
Yeah, no slice and dicing. I was expecting him to be like the Nefa T of Rhythm, but the difference is Nefa T is an actual DJ, and whatever COD Dubs did wasn't particularly technical or even noteworthy to talk about in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't help that we really don't like the music he plays.
Yeah, that's true.
I really don't like rhythm.
Yeah,
so.
we're big rhythm haters, me and Chaz. Although I've come to accept it reluctantly as a part of the hardcore continuum because of its early ties to grime and that early Monsters, hench recordings and Jakes and all that early stuff still has some connection to the overall UK scene. But COD Dub's set, it felt like any regular 2 or 3 deck like DJ set. And he was on the mic a lot, which meant that he wasn't really doing a whole lot of DJ work if you're on the mic that much.
Right. Unless he could have had like a Britney Spears, like the headpiece. And if that's the case, respect COD Dubs.
Just like telegraphing your next moves and all that.
Yeah. But the issue wasn't that he's on the mic hyping up the crowd. We just didn't hear any slice and dice.
Yeah.
What's up with that? It's in his name.
We were there for like, I'd say less than 10 minutes, around 10 minutes, but yeah, there was no katana slicing or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, that was disappointing. I have plenty.
That was disappointing, but we had like, the expectations were like, we had no expectations. We just expected it to be bad in the first place. We saw it mostly as a joke.
Yeah. I mean, I think we knew we weren't going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have plenty of gripes with the festival overall, I think. The main gripe I have, which is, maybe because, I expect things like, oh, it's a big, massive, drinks are expensive, people there are too fucked up and that bothers me, all this stuff. So that stuff is not really a gripe because I know that when I'm signing up to go to a massive like this, there's going to be people like that. But my biggest gripe, I think, is that the music all sounded the same.
Yeah.
The whole weekend, I feel like it was like, there was slight variety. Like we heard, a little bit of kind of dance floor liquid drum and bass, but it was just a lot of like, the screechy, like froggy sounding, like the stuff that's, popular right now, like D&B All Stars style drum and bass. it was just a lot of that. And if it wasn't that, it was like sort of the big room, like Dimension, or something. And, you know, there were like little moments where, you know, artists like Simula and Mephius and Serum, you know, these guys are playing like a style that I think is really tasteful. But overall, I just felt like I couldn't escape this same sound was being played like for 2 days straight. And that's just the drum and bass stage, but going around to the other stages, I felt like it was like just like bro-y, you know? I felt like a bro when I felt like I shouldn't be enjoying this.
Sort of a guilty pleasure in a way. A guilty pleasure you didn't particularly 100% enjoy?
Yeah. I found myself like, because I was wearing earplugs most of the weekend, and I found myself at points like stuffing my earplugs like further in my ear. Like I'm not even trying to to shit on the artist right now, but like I was literally stuffing them further in my ear because sometimes it was just so loud, and when you don't really care for the music and it's really loud, yeah, you're just phoning in listening to it. And kind of. But yeah, overall I had a great time. We had a lot of friends in attendance. That was really nice. It's always nice to see people you don't see, you know, run into old faces and stuff.
Absolutely, especially in the most unexpected of places.
Right.
I saw Chris, one of our friends, Chris Rost, at the restroom right when, I forgot if it was Hybrid Mice. No, it wasn't. It was Saturday. I think it was Boo and Headaches, or Andy C back-to-back Dead Mouse. But it was like a happenstance sort of occurrence that we met at the same exact place at the same exact time when there's like 20,000 plus people walking around.
Right. Yeah. It's funny how it happens like that.
Yeah. But one of my gripes is a lot of the artists that I was really hyped to see, especially Cursa, he played, in my opinion, he played a good set, but he played it too safe, going on what you said. Because I think a lot of these artists, they play for, I think you talked about it in a conversation we had, they play for a festival audience. And when you play for a festival audience, you have to make sure the tracks you play are super loud. They have some sort of catchiness to them, not just a groove, not just a rhythmic groove, or like nothing that has like a melody or a hook to it. Mm-hmm. And like what you said, it can end up sounding the same over and over for the sets.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that's something that's happened for decades now at Insomniac events, is like, you know, people will play to the crowd, or they'll play a certain style at these events, and then you see them at like a smaller club night, and you know they play their style, you know. But it's like when you name an event Apocalypse Zombieland, what kind of message do you think that sends to the artist? I mean,
first off, it would be Halloween, but it takes place a month after, in November, the last weekend of November.
Right, so it has nothing to do with Halloween for any listener who's never heard of this event. It's actually a Thanksgiving rave. And it's called Apocalypse Zombieland, which is just on the surface a terrible name. But it just sounds like, okay, we gotta like throw down some tear out bro step. You know what I mean?
The most roughest of rhythm.
Yeah. So I feel like all the artists were like just throwing down, like playing the heavier side of their style, and that's not always my favorite. I'm more of a groove guy, you know? So absolutely. That was kind of a turnoff, and it was disappointing because the lineup on, you know, it looked pretty good.
Yeah, I was thinking, because when I first saw the lineup, there were a couple good names, but I thought the first lineup looked better. But then when we got there, when we were already there, I thought that this lineup was better, but then the overall sets were lacking. Mm-hmm. That's what I felt.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, at times too, like I felt like the crowd was maybe, you know, not that into it. I think certain like styles get people really hyped up, but overall I I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong there. There's just too many people to gauge what the crowd reaction is to everything.
I feel like it also depends a lot on the artist, because last year I remember Chef Bar Beats' set at the lab was 5 p.m. and he got the whole place really pumping. But then the next DJ, no one really cared for the next DJ. It kind of obviously emptied out a little bit.
Who was that?
I think it was Vale, who's the head of Street Ritual. But it was kind of noticeable. But for this year, I feel like people got pretty tired early on, especially me, because we were just going too hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess in our friends group, for sure, we all got pretty tired.
Yeah, because we were going wild for the early sets for Simula and Serum on Friday, and Enai and Mephius for Saturday.
Right.
I like to say I like to say Mephjus.
Yeah, I think most people say that, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
Unless you hear this and you're not okay with Mephjus.
Mephjus.
But I imagine that by this point you've probably heard every pronunciation of your name.
Yeah, I heard from one of our friends that Chef Bora Beats back-to-back met him at the lab when I was wearing my chef's hat and I got to ride on your shoulders, and that is what you said, the most raver shit you've done in a very long time. It was not a particularly 100% solid set also, because there was a lot of rhythm there too. And there was this one really weird guy who was really drunk and pushy and on something even before they came on.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think because this year I went to a lot of really good, smaller events, and then to kind of bookend all of those great experiences with, I mean, I had a great time because a lot of friends were there, but if I'm just comparing the fundamentals of the event, how is the music? The sound systems were good, but how was the crowd? Things like that. I didn't really feel like this one was a top-rated event for the year for me.
I say that some sets are top-rated to me, but the event overall wasn't really top-rated.
Yeah, I would say that too.
Some other gripes I had, the lack of water at some of the outside porta potty areas. That sucked.
That's every time. I can't believe by this point, I mean, people complain about this every big event where there's porta potties and hand wash stations, they run out of water. It's amazing. It happens every time, and the organizers, I don't know, they just don't care.
I don't remember running into that problem last year.
I don't know. I feel like it's just always a problem. So a friend of ours, she actually brings hand sanitizer every time. And so, yeah, I'm looking for her whenever I go to the bathroom.
A good portable 5 to 10 milliliter bottle is going to last you for the whole time.
Yeah. No, it's brilliant.
Another gripe I have, which we both equally share in hatred, the people on stage behind the decks.
Yeah.
Right when the DJ's playing.
Yeah, that should be banned.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with people behind the decks if it's like I don't know, boiler room style 360 set thing where the fans are behind the decks.
Not just
and
people standing.
And the fans are
there.
loving it. Not just people standing there. But these people were up there just standing and staring back at the crowd. And it was just very ominous.
Very awkward.
Strange.
Same thing happened at Boo earlier this year at Academy. There was like a bunch of VIPs on stage apparently, and you said that it looked like they weren't having a really good time.
Oh, right. Well, yeah, at that club at Academy
in LA.
Yeah.
Also an Insomniac venue.
The VIP, or I don't know, there's always people on the stage, and it's like a upgraded VIP or something. So you'll see like artists back there, artists who are just in attendance of the show, and they're always just standing there. Yeah, they never look like they're having a good time.
Yeah, same thing with Apocalypse, where especially in the DNB stage where the lighting makes it easier to see people behind the decks, it was just as you said, awkward.
Right.
Because sometimes they're just like not really doing anything in particular.
Yeah, I don't know why they authorized that, but next year, well, I don't know.
Clout sharks, that's what they are.
Yeah.
It
worked.
Yeah.
And it worked.
There are some people who deserve to be back there, though. During Curse's set, we saw Matt Two Swords from FKA Hieroglyphics. And we tried to wave at him, but I don't think he noticed.
He didn't notice us.
And then during 100 Drums back-to-back Koki, we saw, or at least I saw, Murad, who runs B-Side back there. And he deserves to be there because 100 Drums is also a part of B-Side as well, and it only felt fair that he's out there vibing out to 100 Drums back-to-back, one of dubstep's main originators. So big respect to Murad, and he definitely is like an actual full-on name that deserves to be back there, and not just
I mean, we don't know
VIPs.
these other people. Maybe these other people deserve to be back there too. I couldn't recognize them, but hey, maybe there's somebody to somebody.
Maybe. I made a joke where it's like there's so many people behind there because there's a photographer, and then there's the person who has to carry the tripod, and the person who has to carry the batteries, and then another person who has to carry spare batteries, and it balloons into like the equivalent of like a classroom back there.
Right. The photography crew is like 15 people. So you never really know. I mean, maybe these people have every reason to be back there. But the point is, they should maybe cover them with a curtain or something, you know?
Be behind the curtain.
Hide them. Yeah, hide them from the crowd so they're not staring at us awkwardly.
Another gripe I have, I'd say just the average person who goes to Massives.
Yeah.
I was, on Saturday, I was there till the very end, and on the way back, the people from the biggest stage, Excision closed that stage, were also all walking back to the exit, and I thought, man, Excision fans, I hate them so much. They just have a different vibe compared to the DNB heads and like the bass books and the Deep 140 guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, like, the people don't really feel like they don't feel like music lovers to me, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think they love to have a good time, and these Massives are a place to, you know, party. And so, I mean, we need them though. We need them there true. Because they're the ones who...
Insomniac needs them.
Well, no, the artists need them.
Oh yeah, the artists. Well,
I mean, the artists aren't making any money off Spotify, streaming, or anything like that. The only way that they're getting paid is by playing shows. So all of these idiots that we trash talk, they're important parts of the scene. They just happen to be not so desirable when you're sharing a crowd with them.
The big artists are going to have people show up anyway, so that's a given for them. And they could play as good or bad of a set as they want, and they're still going to get fans to show up.
Right.
I guess I'm biased because last year I saw this really stupid fight when I saw Excision's Detox set on the first day of Apocalypse last year, and it was just pretty dumb, the whole thing. I didn't know how it started, but it was probably with drugs or just being bumped into. But yeah, that's definitely a big reason of why we're just trash talking them right now.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, again, I wish that, you know, the fans were different, but the thing is they're bringing the cash, so I'm okay with that.
As long as the smaller names get to shine as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
But I'd say one of my most favorite things about Apocalypse Zombieland this year, I can finally uninstall my Insomniac app, so it won't have to take up any more space on my phone. It was really useful, showing the times for the lineup times and everything, as well as a map. But yeah, overall, I'm glad it's gone out of my phone.
The 2 megabytes.
200 megabytes.
200, really?
No, I actually don't know, heavy, but my guess is like...
I doubt it. I'm thinking like 5.
No, I think Apps are pretty big, so I'd say like 200 MB.
I don't think so.
Either way, it's out.
Definitely not this app. This app sucks.
Yeah.
So the developers out there working on the Insomniac app.
Get your shit together.
Get your shit together. I have some feedback, so if you want to DM me, I'll share all my feedback.
I also hated the lack of connection at the event, but that's pretty much a given because of the amount of people.
Yeah.
Makes it super hard to just contact your friends.
Right, yeah. We said that next year maybe walkie-talkies.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much all of our gripes for Apocalypse Zombieland 2024. It was good. Some of it was good, some of it was bad, but it happened, and that's all we can say.
Yeah.
Now, what's today? December 6th. So the year's about to wrap up, so we're going to move on to our next topic. What have been some of your most favorite shows this year?
Oh, well, you know what? I'd have to look back at... I think all my favorite shows this year have been System Error shows.
Absolutely. I'm even wearing the shirt right now.
The shirt, yeah.
System Error, based in LA, hosts, in my opinion, your opinion, probably our collective opinion, the best bass music nights here in LA.
Yeah.
Headquartered mainly around 1720. And it's funny because 1720, I always tell people it's my most favorite venue, and also it's perhaps the most sketchiest spot in all of Los Angeles.
Yeah, it's a great venue though. It's good for it's like 500 cap, and it's good for the type of music that we like. And System Error, they always bring upgraded sound when they do events there. I've seen other artists do events there, and
PK's sound, yeah.
Yeah, the PK sound is great. But I've seen other artists do events there, and they'll use the house sound, and it's not nearly as good. So,
but it's still pretty good, I feel.
It's okay. I think that when System Error plays there, they bring like
PKs all the time.
Not all the time, but they have at least upgraded sound. They're not just using the house sound system.
Okay.
But yeah, I think one of the more notable ones, I think for me, was the Hyperdub night that System Error did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the most interesting shows that I'd been to in a long time. And there was a good variety of music. It wasn't just the same, style all night, which is, I think it's kind of unusual. I think it's becoming more normal. There are some collectives that are pushing more of like a multi-genre night, but this was like, it was really special.
It felt like it directly catered to your taste because you're such a big Hyperdub fan. Yeah. I remember when that night was announced, we were like getting burgers, and I was just on my phone. I saw the System Error Hyperdub, and I said, "Looks like System Error is doing a night with Hyperdub," and you thought I was joking.
Yeah, that was like at the point where System Error had done or announced like 4 really exceptional shows in a row.
Yeah, there was this crazy moment where they were just announcing like a show almost every single day for a week.
And mind you, not just like it was with really stacked lineups, mostly international artists who don't tour here. There was a night they did with JL and
Nicky Nair and Thais.
Is it
Thais?
Yeah, and Nicky Nair.
It's like Thailand for me.
Yeah. And like that was really unique. And then they did Alex Perez and SPMC night, which that was one of my favorite shows of the year as well.
Rest in peace, Doomtown. We would have saw them in Vegas. Also would have played in Vegas. But at least with my Road to Doomtown project on Subtle Radio, there's at least something to still show for it. Yeah. But yeah, the Hyperdub night was legendary. It was at a warehouse instead of 1720, and I remember joking because Jessie Lonzo was on the lineup that she'd do a live performance instead of a DJ set. But Jessie Lonzo, Laurel Halo played really dope techno. I've never really heard techno in a live rave setting before, and their selection was also really good, so it was really mind-boggling. And then Code 9 played all fast-paced stuff, jungle, footwork, a little bit of some D&B, but like all fast-paced stuff. And when I heard Renegade Snares, the Omni Trio remix for the first time, that's where I listened to Renegade Snare's Omnitree remix for the first time. And when those piano chords played, it felt like I was looking at the past, how the past looked at the future, like an anachronistic vision of the future, if that makes any sense. It was just, how should I say it? It was like if I were raving in the 1990s and I heard that track, I would have been I would have been even more mind blown. It was like listening to the future.
Yeah, well,
DJ
I mean,
said.
it was also just the way that he played it too. I think he was like mixing it with the whole set sounded like it was from the future, you know?
Yeah,
it was
absolutely.
really, really cool. But he was playing a lot of like jukey kind of footwork stuff and then mixing it with jungle. And it was just interesting from start to finish. And every artist had an outstanding set. 4 big names. DJ Spin, who's a Chicago footwork legend. Laurel Halo and Jesse Lanza. They're both great multi-instrumentalists. And they, you know, I didn't really know what to expect from DJ sets. And Laurel Halo like blew my mind with just the most incredible techno set. So yeah, that was the most memorable night of the year for me. We also went to a ton of great drum and bass shows. I mean, we saw Halogenics twice this year, which was awesome.
Both by System Air.
Yep, and he released a debut album this year, so we got to hear a lot of really great soulful drum and bass. Yeah, I really had a good year of music. I feel like I said, Apocalypse was maybe the, you know, the not the best choice to bookend a great year, but
it's like the rotten cherry on top.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's not necessarily rotten, but it's obviously a few days old.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for the most part, yeah, System Air has been bringing some really good bookings. We saw throughout only the past 2 months alone, Alex Perez, SPMC, DRS, Metrodome, Code 9 and the Hyperdub crew. I really love DJ Spin's set. I was so excited to finally see Footwork live.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And yeah,
and he was rapping too while he was mixing. That was really cool.
For me, I've finally reached 90 music nights total. I've been to like a hell of a lot of shows this year. July, October, and November have been tied for the most music nights in a month at 7. So I've just been like ramping up going to music nights for like this entire year. It's been really fun.
Yeah, you're catching up to your fellow club goers.
Yeah, I'm almost at 100. It's really exciting. What would you say outside of Apocalypse was your least favorite though?
You know what? I'm gonna say this might surprise you, but I'm gonna just say, due to the fact that the promoter I think did a really poor job, I'd say my least favorite in memory is the Momentive night with the Overview guys.
That's not a surprise, actually.
No.
Yeah, because we always rag on about how they don't really bring good sound. Momentive.
Yeah, the sound was terrible, and I mean these
sound
artists,
it was like a 4-point sound system, so they were trying.
Whoever was operating that, I mean, I just feel like they really, they didn't know what they were doing, and which was such a shame because it was a really big deal to have
the Overview guys, Clinical, Energy, Subantics.
Yeah, their Coherent was supposed to come, but still 3 big UK artists who are kind of spearheading the cutting edge drum and bass scene in the UK. To have them over and then to have a poor sound system was really disappointing. I was really hyped for that night. I think also another one, probably my second, or maybe even my first, in terms of least favorite club night, was another Momentum night this year, and that was the DLR. The DLR night. Yeah.
It was Yeah, that was January 27.
Yeah, and it was just, again, really poor sound. And unfortunately, I think those guys, they maybe focus too much on the lasers and
the crystals and the flow and fire and all that.
The battle bots. Oh yeah, at the DLR night they had battle bots.
It was like robots fighting in a miniature arena. They also had a hovercraft for photos.
Yeah,
if you remember that.
Yeah. They're just doing too much, and I feel like they could like kind of scale that part down and just put a couple grand extra into the sound, and they could have a 10 out of 10 night, because they do a great job booking good talent and stuff. But again, the sound is more important than the talent, so
it has to be that way.
I'd like them to work on that.
At least they're only a twice a year type of thing, every single year. But yeah, the sound, I noticed.
But even more reason to have great sound. You only happen twice a year, you know?
Yeah, but I noticed that the sound wasn't all that beefy when you remove your earplugs, because it wasn't even that like heavy to really rattle your eardrums or anything.
Yeah.
For me, my least favorite this year, it's hard for me to say. I'd also probably say Apocalypse to a certain extent, because otherwise I feel like I really enjoyed every single music thing I go to, because it's really hard to like not really like, when you know the artist and you love the music, it's really hard to say that it's not your favorite or you're not having a good time. Going on to our next question, what have been some of your most favorite tracks this year, or just in general favorite tracks and producers?
Yeah, so I made a little list. Well, I did that because a lot of great music has come out this year, so
that's true.
I wanted to kind of hone in on some of the highlights. And I think I did listen to a lot of drum and bass, like from the pandemic on. There was a lot of really interesting drum and bass coming out, but this year I actually explored more in terms of like experimental dance music, or like just other styles, you know, from artists that don't really have like a specific subgenre they stick to. So my first track here is from Elvis 1990, which is a name that hasn't been around for a long time.
Night Slugs crew.
Yeah, the founder of Night Slugs, or co-founder of Night Slugs.
He goes by Dance System now, I believe.
Yeah, well, this is the Elvis 1990 alias. He's brought back, and
so it's new.
Yeah, it's new, and this tune is like amazing. It's crazy because it sounds nothing like his Night Slugs days.
What's the track ID?
It's called Good Vibes with Eclipse. It's a MC from London. It's really cool, kind of two-steppy, bassy, dubby kind of tune. It doesn't sound anything like his other stuff, so I was really blown away when I saw the ID.
It sounds very dubby and bassy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're just going off of words, of course, but it reminds me of another artist who sort of switched track, Al Wooten, who used to go by Dead Boy. His Dead Boy stuff was mainly house music, released on Numbers, and a little bit of broken beat. But his newest stuff as Al Wooten is like all dub, like actual dub music, released on Zam Zam, and it's like dubby UKG broken beat, very, very low end focus, almost adjacent to dubstep. And I was really surprised to see his sound change trajectory to that, but it was really exciting to hear something like that.
Yeah. I don't think I've heard any of that. I've heard a lot of the Dead Boys stuff on Numbers, but
that was really popular back in the post dubstep days.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Let me talk about another artist though that we have a mutual interest in, Bunshin.
Oh yeah.
You brought me onto him finally.
Yeah.
And he's a really dope producer.
Yeah, he's really exciting, and he covers a lot of bases too in terms of like styles he produces. I've always liked his sound.
I feel like I finally got onto his music because he remixed the title track of Digital Artifice from Turnian Sound on their remix album, and it just blew my mind away because even though Bunshin's remix of Artifice doesn't really change the original structure or sound in a very like broad way, it still is different enough to be its own thing. And you said that Bunshin likes to remix tracks, but not change too much of the original. And I feel that's a really good thing for an artist to show restraint, to remix tracks without really changing it in a broad aspect.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important to also keep the kind of spirit of the original tune in a remix, and I've heard other artists talk about that too, how that's important to them. But I've heard some remixes where you just can't even. I mean, if someone told you it was an original, you'd believe them because it has no tie to the original track, and so yeah, I don't really feel like. I mean, every artist is entitled to their own interpretation of what it takes to remix something, but I've always liked when you can, hear the theme of the original in the remix and hear the artist's interpretation of the original.
That's called the Aphex Twin treatment, when you remix a track but you don't really put anything of the original in the remix.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Bunshin, he's a super dope producer, and he's part of that same class of producer like Imanu and the Caracal Project, that continuation of neurofunk for the 2020s, something like that.
Yeah, the e-boy neurofunk, I call it.
Mm-hmm. We saw the Caracal Project back in March for Brownies and Lemonade. That was really dope.
Yeah.
It's a US debut. Mm-hmm. And we also saw Taiki New Light that night also, and I always say that the Caracal Project set was like an adventure because he went through so many different styles in one DJ set cohesively, and it all sounded really awesome. And then Taiki New Light's set was it was like a history lesson because the first half hour of that set, of his Brownies Lemonade set, was sort of like bass house, but then the second half was like UKG and dubstep, like old school dubstep, and I was really surprised to hear that from him. Mm-hmm. Well, he was doing dubstep for a while, but to like really go for the deep cuts.
Yeah, that was a cool night.
It was an awesome night. Mm-hmm. He played Milky Way by Joker, which I haven't heard in like, I think more than a decade since that point. It was really awesome to hear again. And then I saw him again at in Orange County for Loco Disco, but he played a dubstep and DNB set. That's really awesome. Who are some other artists that you rep on your list of favorite stuff?
I'm gonna skip over. Well, yeah, I think another artist I'd like to, who's I feel like every release this guy has, I have some interest in, and his name's Sempra. He's been doing like, and I found out about him actually through Rids FM. Shout out Charlie Bricks. Are
you sure it's not Cool FM, their DNB sub-channel?
Swoo FM.
Oh, Swoo. Yeah, the Bristol.
Isn't Swoo part of Rinse?
Yeah, Swoo's part of Rinse.
Yeah. It's Swoo. Yeah.
It used to be its own thing, but it used to be its own thing. It kind of died back in 2022 and then got brought back as a Rinse sub-channel.
Yeah. So yeah, it was on Swoo. And she played a track which was a really cool, like, jungly, kind of like Coco Brycey, like lovey-dovey jungle track. And I started exploring this guy's music, and everything he releases is like outstanding. It's really like underproduced. Is like he there's not a ton of awesome production value in it, but great songwriting, cool like ideas in terms of fusing different styles of dance music together. I think he has a really good knowledge of dance music. That's the sense I get from the music. But he self-releases a lot of the music, and it's really good. So yeah, the track's called Dance With You, and it's a newer release, and the A side to it is also really cool. So yeah, check that out.
For me, I feel like one of my most favorite labels this year that I've really started to notice is Yuku. I think it's based in Prague, somewhere in Czechoslovakia.
Yeah.
But they release a lot of good music. Everything they release is top-notch quality. And my most favorite releases from them recently is from the Monologue Duo, Earl Grey and Aroma Nice from Manchester. They make some really, I'd say lone-influenced, breaky, fast stuff. And I've just been loving what they release. And one of my other favorite releases from Yuku is Bright Spots from Dim Fumes, which is this sort of half avant-garde electronic and half pop track, which has been blowing my mind ever since I listened to it. But yeah, everything they release is like super awesome. They're always on they're always on the tip of the iceberg when it comes to like the most forward-thinking music, and it takes some really good A&R to just release, like find that music and release it.
Right. Yeah, I always hear they're almost every week they're featured on Vision Radio.
Yeah,
and
they have one of their artists, Koido.
What's that?
Koido, Coido.
Yeah, the Italian guy.
Released, I think, an EP on Yuku.
Yeah. And he just released one on 2020 London.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but every time they play a track that's on Yuku, Nick or Martine from Noisia will go, Yuku. So that's how I always remember them.
For you, what is one of your most favorite record labels that you've seen shine this year?
Oh, gosh. Who's really been killing it this year?
Critical Music, first of all, but like that's always a given, no matter what.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about who, maybe what's a best new label. Who would fit that category?
After all, Serum, Simula, Enai, and Mefjus, they're all affiliated with Critical and had the best sets of this apocalypse. So
yeah, I mean, Critical's representing a lot of the great artists right now.
It helps that European producers are technical both in production and DJing, so they do it right every single time, no matter what it is.
Right. I think one label that I really liked this year is Flex Out Audio, and their sister label Waves, which is like a garage and
like non-DNB stuff.
Halftime, and yeah, they just kind of cover a lot of different ground. They've had a couple cool compilations and a really cool release by a duo, Tina Tokyo, which is awesome. Everyone should go check that out. I can't remember the name, but I think Flex Out Audio's really been killing it. They've been releasing some great stuff for years, but I think this year with the Waves project, like, that is awesome. I think more, especially in drum and bass, I think more labels should kind of branch out, the way that I think, Alex Perez has with 1985, releasing music from styles outside of the genre, because it really gets dull, when you're like listening to too much drum and bass. It has so much impact, and it's such a powerful style of music. In moderation, but when all that's coming out is the same sound, the same rhythm, I think it gets old, and I'm a big lifetime drum and bass fan, so that's just my opinion.
Yeah, going back to 1985, as far as I know, the label was founded in 2016, and then right around 2019 was when Alex Perez started making and releasing dubstep. But it's only been since like the past 2 years that he's really perfected that multi-genre approach for him and his artists on the roster, and they've just been releasing their best stuff yet ever since. Yeah,
and it's nice because it's like, I think with every artist, you never really know what you're gonna get. Like Chesco, who's kind of become one of their
their top 140 artists, because
but he's not a 140 artist. He's he's just doing everything. He's doing UKG, he's doing halftime, he's doing drum and bass. It's really cool to see labels kind of foster that, because I think what the tendency for dance music is like, it doesn't fit the sound of the label, you know? And so they have to go and, you know, maybe they're signed to the label and they have to produce something that fits a certain sound, or they'll, you know, have to find another label to release the music they really want to release. So it's cool to hear label owners like Alex and the other people who run the label kind of fostering that creativity for artists.
It definitely makes sense that they also expand their sound, because 1985 for like 3 years was just drum and bass and halftime. So most of the tracks were like, like all those like half-step DnB tracks. As far as I know, but yeah, it's always a good thing.
Yeah,
to, like,
well,
hear.
I think the first release on 1985 was a halftime release. Alex Perez's
and Tasso,
the Surplus 1 or something like that. It's not a very popular release, but I don't think I think it had been like maybe. I don't think they released drum and bass for the first few releases, and then I don't know, maybe that came out on Exit. But yeah, the first few releases were like halftime stuff, which was cool. It's cool that a label was founded by a drum and bass guy, but he started doing it, releasing other styles adjacent to drum and bass.
It was like he started releasing more dubstep, and now he's going to like a little bit of UKG, but mostly with Chesco. Chesco always makes bangers, and I'm really hopeful to see him next year. Hopefully System Error picks him up for a Friday or Saturday booking around the time he's here. We're about to wrap things up, but I just want to go over one more thing. So tell me a little bit about the Rinse Charming project as a surprise final question.
Okay.
Because to viewers who don't, or for listeners who don't know, me and Chaz have been doing a little bit of music production, a little bit, but Chaz is just way more experienced than me.
Yeah, so, you know, I think maybe over the course of this interview, if you've stayed with us, you could probably get the sense that I'm a little jaded with drum and bass. And I originally started DJing under a different alias. And back in the day too, I released beats under a different alias. And, you know, always, I think with like a focus on drum and bass. And I've just been like really sick of being kind of put in that box, even though I don't have a fan base or anything like that. But
it's just your personal boundaries and goals.
Right. And I've just felt like, you know, I want to sort of distance myself from the drum and bass thing, because I think there's a lot of exciting music happening, bubbling up in other genres, and especially where we live, it's really underrepresented. And you know, there are scenes for it in the UK, like certain styles of UKG, certain styles of 140, techno for sure, like certain techno sound, like you could hear artists like Fixate releasing, and a lot of breaks. And I mean, there's just this certain sound around 130, 140 BPM that is really cool to play with. And I think there's a lot of really nice artists right now releasing music right in that range. And so, yeah, I just started, you know, DJing more with that sensibility. Like, I'd like to represent those styles and not kind of stay in a box, not like stick to one sound. But overall, I think those all fit together really well. It's sort of like the way I feel about what happened with jungle and footwork in the late 2000s. You know, when artists like Machine Drum and Fracture started playing with jungle and footwork, and it's like, yeah, they're different, but they really work well together. And so I think there's a lot of that like cross-pollination that can happen with breakbeat and garage and even some dubstep, and all of that stuff. That's kind of what the Rinse Charming project's about. And so yeah, there's some like production that's come with that too. So I'm not just fixated on having like overproduced drum and bass kind of workflow when I'm making beats, because it's really annoying. It's not fun to like layer 6 snares and like, you know, compress something 5 times, you know, with EQs between each one to get this like perfectly placed fundamental in your snare. And that's kind of the loudness war that drum and bass has created. And so I feel like these other styles, there's not so much focus on that. And it's really a nice way to explore creativity and not get so in the weeds with like the, you know, production and loudness.
I see. So you putting on this Rinse Charming cape is a way for you to break out of the mold. I don't even know if there is a mold. I mean, I don't even know. It's probably all in my imagination. It's just whatever limitations you place on yourself.
Right. It's more like a statement for our friends, right? Because I think I was known, or I am known, as like more of a drum and bass guy. And, you know, in my personal listening habits, you know, privately, I listen to very little drum and bass. I listen to just enough to know what's going on in the scene, you know, but I don't listen to it in a way where, you know, like when I was younger, it was like really formative, where I'm like exploring a side of music I never heard before. You know, at this stage, I feel like I've heard just about everything that you can do with the drum and bass template. So I'm a little more excited about these other styles that are bubbling up, and I think there's still a lot of ground to cover in the 170 BPM range, but at the moment I just don't really see a lot of people doing something interesting with it. And, you know, I'm just a fan of the music. I'm not going to go and, you know, be the one to produce the next big thing in drum and bass. But yeah, overall, I just feel like it's a little stale right now. So, you know, the artists that I shouted out are a good example of direction that I'd like to see dance music going.
Absolutely. The most exciting thing is just listening to new stuff. It's always really cool to listen to the most groundbreaking new things, regardless if it's confined to genre restrictions or not.
Right.
I think that about wraps it up, man. Thanks for talking.
Nice. Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me on.
I'm Young Dave.
And I'm Chazzy Chazz.
And this has been Young Dave on Salta Radio, the final episode of 2024. Thanks for listening. See you soon.